Good morning. We're here at the Pavilion Gardens, Buxton, in the coffee shop before it opens, because we're here that early on a Monday for setup. I'm here with my colleague Paul Cheetham, who's consigned the vast majority of the catalogue, over 40 cars. So we're here to have a bit of a run through of our picks for today, some of the cars that we think, picks for Wednesday even, some of the cars that we think will be of interest to you. So I'll throw it over to Paul. Paul, what's your favourite consignment?
Personally, I would say the P5B.
Why?
Low ownership, low mileage. It's here already, 8 o'clock in the morning, early doors. He's driven it down from Newcastle, so it's a good 150 miles, I reckon. Yeah. Said he couldn't sleep last night because he's not looking forward to this day, but he just wanted to get it over and done with. He said he really enjoyed the drive down, and yeah, he's going to have a sorry train ride home, I think, bless him.
And the P5B, I mean, that's a model that's synonymous with Harold Wilson, Margaret Thatcher, the 70s, many years before you were born.
Yeah, before my
where's
time.
The resonance?
60s, 70s are one of my passions. And I think the P5B is such a usable classic still. I've got friends who tow vintage caravans with them. And I think you can chuck the family in, you can go down to Goodwood, you could go into the continent. They're just so usable. And
is that a long-winded way of you saying that you're a closet pipe smoker?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. Okay. I mean, that's the lovely thing about the sale, is there's a huge range of vehicles on offer.
Well, I'll throw it back at you. What's your favourite then?
My favourite, I've got too many. I mean, I do like the cover car, even though I didn't consign it. It was my colleague James, the 2012 McLaren MP4-12C, just because that was such a step change in supercar evolution.
Yeah. And
the monocell that underpins that car and the 3.8 litre V8 twin turbocharged engine, the relatives of those are still fitted to McLarens today. So people, you see all these models coming out, but effectively that monocell with a few modifications and that twin turbo V8 are what's in a 720S. It's what's in a McLaren Senna.
Yeah.
So there's been a great amount of longevity there. But the trick thing with the MP4-12C, and they were criticised for it when it came out, that it weren't as visceral as the contemporary Ferrari and all that sort of thing, is that they ride like a saloon car.
Yeah.
I mean, the ride on those is unbelievable. And yes, since that first came out, they have made the exhaust a bit louder, a bit more boy racer, but it is an important supercar in the history of that genre.
And I think McLaren as well, because it was obviously the first sort of, well, it was the rejuvenation of road cars for McLaren, wasn't it?
I mean, but huge shoes to fill, because that came after the F1, which was a very, very different beast. But I mean, I agree. And it's probably a bit controversial, but I sort of prefer the McLaren to the Ferraris that we've got in the sale, the 355 and the 360.
I mean, I'm biased because I've consigned one of the Ferraris, but there's something iconic about Ferraris.
Oh yeah,
and I'm not saying this McLaren aren't iconic, but when I was a small boy, it was always Ferrari and Lamborghini are the two really exotic brands that as a child get you excited. I think as you get older, you appreciate a lot more brands and the reasons why certain cars are iconic. But as a small child, before you actually understand the ins and outs of cars, I think Ferrari and Lamborghini are the wow cars. So they always resonate with me.
So on the basis that you like show-off cars, which is what you're saying,
the small boy in me likes show-off cars. Okay,
small boys and show-off cars. How do you feel about the Chitty Bang Bang Evocation?
Oh, that's got me very excited. It's I think it should have the wings, which is a shame. But no, it looks like, I haven't seen it yet, it's not here yet, but it looks like a cracking Evocation and something that, as somebody who's watched the film a number of times, it's certainly an interesting eyeful, isn't it?
It looks enormous fun.
Yeah.
My understanding, I might have it wrong, but my understanding is that the original Chitty Bang Bang for the film had 60s Ford running gear.
Oh, did it? Okay.
So this is very different in that it's got pre-war American running gear.
Yeah. The Packard.
So it should be Packard chassis.
Yeah.
So it should be quite some fun.
Yeah.
I mean, and the looks you're going to get driving around.
Yeah, there won't be a head that doesn't turn as you drive past,
Yeah.
won't there?
And, you know, nostalgic for different reasons. Paul and I have a battle for this sale. We have a battle of 80s estate cars.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So in the blue corner is the 1986 Ford Granada 2.8 GL Estate.
Yep.
It is a one-owner car
You
with
beat me there.
23,000 miles.
And you do beat me there as well, but I still think the Volvo, condition-wise, it's a 740 estate. It's two owners, 45,000 miles, something around there.
You mean 450,000?
No, 40 warranted mileage.
Like mine's not.
But condition-wise, it is beautiful. And when the vendor mentioned putting it in, he said, just come and have a look at it. Just come and have a look at it. And when I got there, it was just one of those, find another, because you will not find one that is in that condition.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the Granada isn't. Again, I haven't seen it yet, but those Volvos, again, we've talked about cars that are iconic. Everybody remembers those Volvos when they were 10 a penny.
Yeah. And yours is unusual because it's a Volvo estate, the load deck of which has not been messed around by dragging too many grandfather clocks or any other stereotypical antique dealer bits and pieces. The Granada actually suffers in some ways from being so original.
Yeah.
By which I mean Ford at that stage in the 80s, and this is very Anaraki, for their kind of gear and the GL, they went with a more luxurious velour cloth, but they glued the seams rather than stitching them. So if you look at that Granada, over time the glue starts to lose its adhesion and the upholstery starts to bag.
Yeah.
Now, that means it's completely original, but it also means it isn't quite as smart as it was when it was in the showroom.
Yeah.
But which certainly isn't the case for the Porsche 911 Turbo, the 996, the manual, which is the sister car to the 360 Spider.
I mean, you're an advocate for the 996, aren't you?
Yes. That's just, let's pass. No, but I mean, that again is a car that has got predominantly main dealer service history.
Okay.
You know, it's in polar silver with the Metropole dark blue leather. It's got the sports seats. It's got various nice extras on it, but they are such phenomenal value for money.
Yeah.
You know, I think that one's in at 40 to 50,000 pounds. It's effectively a 200-mile-an-hour supercar.
Yeah.
You know, and they are also that much smaller than a 997. The two are pretty close in size. But if you park that 996 Turbo against a current generation 992, you will be shocked how much bigger the 992
Size
is.
difference,
It's gargantuan.
Yeah.
And if you are, obviously you wouldn't, but if you were pressing on down a country road, being in a narrower car, you know, is
a lot more
definitely an
fun
advantage.
and chuckable.
Yeah. And also, you know, the wheels are 18-inch on that.
Yep.
Yeah, we're now into the realms of supercars, sports cars running around on 21, 22-inch rims.
Yeah.
Which means, as our cameraman will pay testimony to, potholes are not your friend. Country roads are not your friend. They're just a very expensive place to be. So,
and if you look at that, sorry to interrupt, but if you look at the 911 turbos that precede the 996, value-wise, obviously they're leaps and bounds ahead. So, you know, it's a car that's definitely got potential in terms of appreciation, I think. Don't hold me to that.
Well, no, I think as long as the entire market carries on going up, you know, and the 911 market continues to be strong, I think you're spot on.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, again, we go from a car that's capable of nearly 200 miles an hour to a car that would be happy to do 40 miles an hour. The circa 1910 Brush Gentleman's Runabout.
Single cylinder, great name.
Absolutely.
What more can you want?
Absolutely, but surely you would have to buy a jar of Gentleman's Relish to go with your Gentleman's Runabout.
It's a must, I think.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one in the metal before, or wood, as we should say.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because Brush, like a lot of manufacturers in the veteran and Edwardian eras, carried on using wood for the chassis.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Marcos who continued that trend into the 60s using plywood for their monocoques, but brush, it was much more in lines with what you would have expected from a horse-drawn carriage, and that was that. But I mean, it's just fabulous to have cars like that as a reminder of the early days of motoring. And I might be looking at it now and thinking that's only got a 1 litre engine and it would struggle to do 40 miles an hour. But at the time, that was unheard of.
Yeah.
At the time, that was flat out racehorse speed.
Yeah. It was, to see one of those going down the road would have been an absolute amazement to somebody in the period, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. And I do think that, you get, because it was rare for manufacturers to produce their own coachwork before the war, unless they were mass manufacturers, you just get that greater individuality. You get the different manufacturers with their different ideas as to calling cards, styling cues with the radiators and the wing designs, but then you get all these coach builders.
Yeah.
So, and some of them really nailed it. I mean, you have to say, in terms of archetypal 20s, early 30s sports car, that Lagonda 2 litre of yours takes some beating. Yeah,
so it's a 2 litre Tourer, by the vendor's own admission, purchased as a scruffy 2 litre Tourer. Now it really presents well. I've got a real love for pre-war cars, as you well know, and it's a hankling of mine to go pre-war, in the near future, hopefully. That one is, it's got the engine from a blown car, it's got the radiator from a blown car, or supercharged car, if you're not familiar with that term. So it will go well as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a hodgepodge, like a lot of pre-war sports
cars,
especially the sports cars, because they were driven hard.
Yeah.
And that is the era of Wolf Bonato racing the Blue Train back from the south of France. That's the era of improbable average speeds.
Yeah.
You get people who are still talking about driving London to Edinburgh, in a 20s or 30s car and doing it in 7 or 8 hours, which would be a good time today.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, it's got a great feel to it. And I think it makes a nice counterpoint to the Phantom 1 Drophead that's in the sale. I mean, that is imposing not just because of the blue paintwork, but because the Southern Motors replacement coachwork. Southern Motors, there was a great vogue because buying a Phantom 1 was so expensive in period.
Hideously
expensive. It wasn't the price of buying a house, it was the price of buying several houses.
Yeah.
So what Southern Motors did was offer people the chance to refresh the look. So you kept the engine and the running gear, but they would supply you with a new body. So if you had a 20s car, they could rebody it in the 30s and give it a whole new lease of life.
Yeah.
And that has got a very flamboyant 30s style Drophead coupe body on it. But yeah, a very, very cool thing.
And a very interesting history. It's had quite a few, not famous, but interested owners, I believe, in its time, hasn't it? I can't remember the exact details.
It was our colleague Andreas Hicks who consigned that, and I think he said there was some links to possibly sort of various Indian Maharajas and that sort of thing. So again, you get a sign of, or an indication of how wealthy you had to be to buy one of those, the fact that a Maharaja had an involvement with it.
Definitely.
So, and again, you just got that great range of vehicles.
Yeah.
So, we dot around from cars which were incredibly expensive when new to cars which today are that much more affordable, but replicating cars which are beyond most people's price brackets. So you've got that fabulous Dri-sleeve Bugatti Type 37 Evocation in.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about that.
Quite a bit of interest, that. So Dri-sleeve, they only built 5 or 6, the exact number's not quite known. Obviously the teals are the most well-known evocations of the Bugattis, but evocations and replicas of sports cars have obviously become ever so popular because of the cost associated with the real ones.
Yeah.
So we've got the Dri-sleeve, which looks a whole load of fun for the money. There's the Pilgrim Sumo, which I would say is hopefully competitively guided.
I think so.
It's got an Essex V6, that one. Obviously, most people would prefer a V8, but it still sounds, it's got a great sound, and it certainly will be no slouch.
Oh, yeah, it's still a V configuration engine.
Exactly.
Because the Sumo was aimed to be among the more affordable Cobra kits, and you could get it with a 2 litre Pinto.
Yeah.
So, an Essex V6 is a whole 50% larger, 2 extra cylinders. So that's great. I mean, and there's also that NGTC in there.
I was going to say your Aston Martin.
Extensively reworked to look more like an Aston Martin Ulster. And that is a nuts labour of love. You can see somebody's handmade various little brass panels and inset them into the bonnet and just all that. So and the dashboard is a little bit like, I don't know what the Screwfix equivalent is for an instruments company, but somebody's gone in there, ordered everything and stuck it on the dash.
Yeah.
So
well, we don't get much time in catalogue close to have a look through each other's lots, really. But when that arrived at the office and you have a look round it, you do think, wow, someone has really gone to town on this.
And again, like the Dri-sleeve, because you've got a car with very little weight, the fact you've got a tuned, basically MGB engine in there, it's very peppy to drive.
Yeah.
And you've got an all-synchro gearbox, you've got the rack and pinion steering, so it's a surprisingly modern experience, but very much wind in the hair motoring.
Exactly.
So
and the Dri-sleeve is interesting as well in the fact that it's got Cortina 1500 GT running gear. So obviously most of the Teals, like you say, MGB, Marina, some Beetle running gear, whereas that's on Ford Cortina GT running gear.
And again, a little snapshot in time, because obviously when that Dri-sleeve was built, that was possible.
Yeah.
Now, if you cut up a Ford Cortina GT to use the running gear for a kit,
it wouldn't be very popular.
No, and it wouldn't make any kind of economic sense.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just, as I say, there's that huge range. I mean, we've got a plethora of Ford Capris in there.
Yeah.
We've got my colleague James McWilliam, or our colleague even, has consigned a Ford Capri Tickford.
Yeah.
Am I right? They made about 85?
85. I think this is number 71.
Okay.
Colleague James consigned it. It's been off the road since 92, I want to say. In the 20,000 mile region, which is again believed genuine. And in terms of interesting restoration projects and rare restoration projects, because it does need work, but it's got a lot of potential being so rare.
It just screams 80s.
Yeah.
It's just so...
Big body kit.
Yeah, but also big slab-sided body kit. I mean, literally, everything looks better with big, blocky... I mean, the sills, the front air dam, the blanked-out grille. You know, I mean, you can see... and I might be stretching it a bit here, you can see vague links to the Aston Martin V8 Vantage with its blanked off radiator grille. And obviously Tickford was a subdivision of Aston Martin. Aston were looking to try and make some money at the time. And so, you know, that was something that they took on as a project to raise extra funds, those Capris. But, you know, effectively, if not hand-built, a hand-customised Capri by Aston. Yeah. Rare as anything. So, yeah, just a great thing. And
we had it on the stand at the Ashover Classic Car Show. And in between the torrential downpours, it got a lot of interest. It was probably the most viewed car on the stand. And we took, you know, a Ferrari and a Mitsubishi as well. And everybody came and looked at the Capri.
Yeah. Well, you didn't see that many in period.
No.
But it is... by no means the fastest Ford, though, is it?
No, the insane Focus, which 600 and something brake.
Is it 630?
I think so, yeah. Road registered still.
I don't know how you put that through the front wheels.
No.
So...
it would scare the living death out of you, I think. Especially on the roads around Buxton.
I'd just crash it.
Yeah.
But it never has been crashed. It has been very much babied, looked after... consigned by our colleague Lucas Gomersall. And I mean, again, like a lot of the cars on the sale, a real labour of love. You know, that is made no sense, you know, to develop a Focus so it's got more power than the 360 Ferrari we've got in the sale, more power than the 996 Turbo, more power than the McLaren MP4-12C, and it's in a hot hatch. And that's...
you can get into a lot of trouble in a normal Focus RS, so that's a one-way ticket to a few points on the licence, I bet.
Absolutely, absolutely. As you might be able to hear, it's now crept beyond 9 o'clock in the morning. Things are getting a little busier here, so we're going to have to wrap up and go and do some work.
Do some work, yeah.
I'm sure our colleagues will have left plenty of the 130 cars
To set up.
to position. So we will be absolutely done, dusted in our suits and looking smartish for viewing tomorrow. That is Tuesday the 25th. We'll be open from 12 until 6. So please do come along if you can.
Looks a better day weather-wise as well, probably. So if you do and you are free, we're more than happy to see you here. And it's meant to be sunny tomorrow, touch wood.
Yeah, and if you can't make it, please do give us a phone call or an email. Ask for any more information. We're quite happy to go through history files. Quite happy to do walk-around videos and give you as much information as we can. Same applies. Doors open 9 o'clock on the 26th, with the auction itself starting at 1 o'clock. We'd very much like to see you there, but if you can't make it for any reason, please do contact us whichever way you can, and we'll do our best to help. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.